There you go. Now I can.
Have an alcoholic, and we are going to kick it off tonight. We are in pH 67 in work, and we're going to move into the fourth column. But before we do, I'm just going to do a little recap for us.
Yep, my name is Howard Eber, and I am a recovered alcoholic. And thank you all for coming. We are in How It Works. We have taken care of, because we read the doctor's opinion and the forwards and the first four chapters to this book. We have come to certain conclusions. We've come to the conclusion of the mind about what the problem was, that we were powerless, that we have this physical allergy, mental obsession, and spiritual malady that puts us in a position where alcohol has a different effect on us than it does on anybody else. So we come to this chapter having done that, and then in the beginning of the chapter, we recognize the natural order of things after we go through the steps, after Bill has mentioned it to us. We're talking about what is our role in terms of our relationship with God. I don't know about anyone else, but I had a very dysfunctional relationship for 24 years in recovery, where I began every day by turning my will over. I said, God, I'm turning my will over to you, because that's what I was told to do. Didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what that meant, but I said it. And then I gave him a laundry list of the things I needed him to accomplish that day. And at the end of the day, I took out my list and realized he hasn't done anything on that list, but I'm a fair guy. We'll try it again tomorrow. And that's how we did it, day after day after day. Everything stayed the same. Nothing changed. I put it all in God's hands, thinking he's the one to get it done. I'm giving the orders. And thank God for page 62, the bottom of page 62. It told me how wrong I was. It told me that God was the director, he's the principal, he's the father, we're the agents. He's number one. See, I came in here thinking I'm number one, realizing after reading this that I am at best number two, but by no means number one. And the information contained on the bottom of page 62 was a life changer for me, because it clarified the order of things. I am here to take direction, not to give direction. And on page 63, we collectively took the third step, where we offered ourselves to God to build with us and do with us as we will, relieve us of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help. With thy power, thy love, thy way of life, may I do thy will always. And I don't know about anybody else, but there's a lot of thys in that. And I love the fact that in the very next paragraph, Bill tells us basically rewrite it, put it in your own words. You don't want the these and the thys and the those. By the way, who is thy anyway? When I asked people that in the beginning, the answer I got most often was, don't worry about it. It's not you. And that's all you have to know. And that clarified it for me, that I'm not running this show, that thy is not thee, it's him. So after taking the third test, the third step, we then immediately launched into a vigorous plan of action, starting with our fourth step inventory, in which we looked at the things in us that have been ruling, controlling, and dominating us up until that point. On page 62, Bill states that we're driven by 100 forms of fear, self delusion, self seeking, self pity. You add self and almost anything else after that. And when we make decisions based on self, meaning, what does it look like, incidentally, when I make a decision based on self? Do you ever really think of what that is? It's very simply this: what's in it for me? Why should I do it? It's all about me. Well, That's not the way it runs. It's the opposite. And on, like I said, on page 62, Bill told us we are driven by 100 forms of self and fear, but we don't know what those things look like yet. We know fear, we know self, but how does it show up in our lives? And we're told that when we make decisions based on that self, number one, I make a decision based on what's in it for me. Why should I do it? What do I get out of it? When I make a decision like that, I collide with the forces around me who are in conflict with me because everyone's got self will and nobody's going to want to surrender it to me. So I step on your toes by trying to enforce my will on you, and you retaliate. You push back. Get off my feet. Get off my toes. And when you do that, I am entitled to a little retaliation. So I do. And what my retaliation looks like is I get angry. I get fearful. I act in a harmful manner. In other words, I get resentful. And when I'm resentful, my track record proves that I will drink and I will drug every single time, inevitably. So the problem, as I see it, and as Bill tells me on page 62, is that if I'm driven by these thoughts, the end result, the action of drinking and drugging, has to be changed. And we can't change the action without changing the thought that set it in motion. I know there are a lot of people who say that I can think my way into good, I could act my way into good thinking. Well, action comes second. Action always comes second. All action is born in thought. If my thoughts, my actions are lousy, it's because my thinking is lousy. So if I want to change my actions, I have to first find out what are those forms of fear and self look like. And so we begin with this fourth step inventory in which we made a list of all people, people, principles, and institutions with whom we were angry. We start with our angers. I know a lot of times in meetings, the topic will be resentment, and people just talk about anger and anger and anger. And anger is not resentment. Anger is a form of resentment. So is fear. So is acting out in a harmful manner. Those are all forms of resentment because resentment means to refeel. That's the definition of it, refeel. So I'm going to refeel my angers and list them. I'm going to refeel my fears and list them. I'm going to refeel some of my harms and list them. So we began with the angers, people, institutions, principles with whom we were angry. And then we briefly asked ourselves in a 4-column format, second column being, what did they do? Why are they on this list? Bullet points, brief. We're not writing out a life story here. We're using at most 19 or 18 words. I forget what it mentions in the book, but we are brief. We are writing down bullet points in that second column. Nobody's going to read our fourth step, incidentally. It's not like we have to write it out so someone can read it. When I do my fifth step, I'm reading it and I'm telling my life story through the information on that page. And if it isn't on the list, it doesn't get brought up and talked about in my fifth step. So I said the second column is what did they do to deserve a special place in hell? And then the third column requires a little bit of thought. What basic instinct was hurt or threatened by what they did? Basic instincts I learned are survival mechanisms. We need them. Self-esteem, pride, security. Security is physical, emotional, financial security, relationships, ambitions, all of those things. What basic instinct was, what toe did you step on? When you pissed me off, what toe did you step on? It was my pride. It was my security instinct. What was that? And that's as far as we got, is into that third column, is identifying what basic instinct was hurt or threatened by what that other person did. And I'll turn it over to Kathy here with one last comment that, if nothing else, by the time I got to this column, this third column, I realized I can't be angry at you unless you specifically do something that hurts or threatens one of my basic instincts. I can't get angry at you for stepping on my foot if you didn't step on my foot. So by thinking of it in those terms, what toe did you step on? Is it my pride, my self-esteem, and so on? And we read the first two pages of the essay in the 12 and 12 chapter on step 4, where Bill talks about basic instincts running wild, that all of our problems are somehow attributed to that. And that's where we got up to. We were up to that third column in our inventory for angers. And I'm going to turn it over to Kathy.
Thanks, Art. My name is Kathy. I'm an alcoholic. Yes, and a little bit of recap, because Howard brought us right up to date, but just an important point before we start in looking at the fourth column in particular. It talks to us in the bottom of page 66 about what do we do when we turn back to the list, and because it holds a key for the future, and it tells us what our direction is. It tells us that this is our course, and it talks to us about how these people are sick and we don't like their symptoms. So column 1 and column 2, and they give us this little spiritual juice of a resentment prayer for me to be able to do column 4. That's been my experience, because without that prayer, I wasn't writing. I had to just get that noose around my neck loosened a little bit, because I don't see self, and I don't see what I'm going to see in the 4th step. On the 5th step, when the sponsor points it out to me, I can't see that, but I'm starting to be humble. But this beautiful prayer, and the paragraph we're going to start on today is again page 67, paragraph 1. Howard mentioned it last week about when the person offends us, that we're able to say, this is a sick man, how can I be helpful to him? And I don't know about you, but that was one of the first things that jumped out at me when I read this prayer. I thought, why is Bill always asking me to be helpful right from the forwards, right through this book, even when I'm angry, And I realized today, of course, I have to be a better servant. This is all about getting rid of, Kathy, self-centeredness and selfishness for more God and more you guys. So it starts off about we avoid retaliation and argument. And, it's very hard. That's why I need spiritual elbow grease to avoid retaliation or argument, especially if I see the person and they're on my list. People used to say to me, Kathy, your face tells it all, that I need this prayer, because even if I do say the prayer and I see the person, I'm still burning up inside. The anger's still there. So that's why I need to do the writing and the prayer. So every time before I go and write for each person, principal, or institution in the 4th column, I say this prayer. I don't always get on my knees, but I say it before I write, and I let God channel through me. It says we wouldn't treat sick people that way. If we do, we destroy our chance of being helpful. And that's the goal. We want to be helpful. Again, Bill, what are you doing? I'm angry at this person. Again, have to be a better servant. I'm going to be a better servant. Even if I just do this work, even if I just do this work, despite myself, I'll change. We cannot be helpful to all people, but at least God will show us how to take a kindly and tolerant view of each and every one. So if I can't be helpful, at least show me how to have a kindly and tolerant view of each and every one. It doesn't say I have to like the person, I have to forgive them. It doesn't say anything like that. But that's a beautiful promise telling us that, okay, you're not going to be helpful to everyone, but just don't harm them. Just be kind and just be tolerant. And that might just look like saying nothing when I used to just shoot my mouth off. Whatever that looks like, I'm not going to create further damage, right? Howard, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I love the fact that you pointed out that we're not going to walk away into the sunset holding hands with these bastards who we didn't like in the first place. The book doesn't promise us that. The book promises us that if we do this work, that God will show us. That's the we're talking, that we're talking about. That God will show us how to take a kindly and tolerant view. Tolerant does not mean take a step back and reload so you can attack these people again. It means to take a step back and let it be. Tolerant and kindness. And we have the sick man's prayer, which is what Kathy opened up with. And maybe if we have some time before the end of the meeting, we can get into the Helen Wynne prayer for resentments that we don't want to get rid of. So let me know when you want to do that, if you want to do that, if time allows.
Perfect. Okay. So the next colony, or the next colony, next paragraph, referring to our list again, and this is the direction they're giving us. Remember on page 66, they talked about this was our course. So this is exactly what they're laying out for us to do for the fourth column. So putting out of our minds the wrong others had done. So we're putting out of mind. And if you guys were here in the last couple of weeks, I was talking about my mom as an example. So I'm putting my mom out of my mind, and I'm putting that she left me when I was 11, or that she abandoned me when I was 11. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to look for my own mistakes. So what was helpful for me here, just a little tip, was cover column 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Literally, either fold the page over, depends which way you do your columns, or put a book on top of it, because it's going to ask me, it's asking me to put out of my mind that person. So if it's not in sight, it's not really going to be jumping at me when I'm trying to look at what I have to put in fourth column. It was so helpful. So helpful. So I'll just give that a shout out. And resolutely just means to without doubt. So I have to look for my own mistakes, look for my own defects. Where had I been, selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened? And again, fourth column, some people do this in 5 columns. I talked about how I do it, 1 page per resentment, 3 columns at the top, and a full space at the bottom. So I have 4 columns. So depending on how you do it, basically the last column is going to ask us, where have I been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened? And it doesn't ask me had I been, it says where. And that's what I get into. What part of self, what defect, and where had I been frightened, self-seeking, and dishonest. Though a situation had not been entirely our fault, we tried to disregard the other person involved entirely. And that's exactly, again, what I was talking about. I have to disregard this other person entirely, even if my mom left me when I was 11, even if this tragedy at home happened to us, I still have to disregard what she did, right? Because I'm going to look at me. That's not an easy thing to do, but how free do you want to be? And that's why I have my prayer. So I'm not looking at what she did, even though she did it, right? She walked out. It's not entirely my fault. And it says, where were we to blame? The inventory was ours, not the other man's. And so it talks about, sorry, where was I to blame? And so in my fourth column, before I do the where had I been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened, I do two things before that, which is I ask myself, and it comes from the sick man's prayer, and I hope I don't get this all complicated, but you know, Howard will clean it up anyway. It talks about in the resentment prayer how those people like ourselves were sick too. So I write down, did I ever leave a relationship? I.e., this is my mom I'm doing. And did I ever abandon a friendship? And I'm like, oh yes, I did. I'm a hypocrite. So I can see I did that too. And then the next question I ask myself is, um, sorry, let me go back to, I don't want to quote it wrong. Yeah. The next question I need to ask myself is, what, where did I put myself? Where did I make decisions based on self, which placed me in a position to be hurt? Now, what does that do? For me, that walks the dog right back to seeing actually where I made the decision based on self, which later placed me in this position to be hurt. You know, because I think, well, that person hurt me. Well, what did I do to begin with? We'll walk the dog back. And it's so freeing because oh gosh, there I am. I did not know, you know, it looks like they hurt me, but actually I did this or I didn't do this. And this was the result of it. For me, I feel that fueled my drinking and my behavior. And I'll tell you, when I did that resentment on my mom, I think it was about 28 years of my life, I held on to that thinking it was my fault, thinking I could have did something different. And so what am I saying here is like, I harbored all that time that could have been spent in forgiveness and releasing and moving on. So, you know, there's always something. Let me finish this up, Howard. Inventory was ours, not the other man's. When we saw our faults or defects, we listed them. And then I go on to list where when I look at decisions based on self, which later placed me in a position to be hurt, and I come up with that. Then I do selfish, and then I will list my defects. So if it's selfish, you know, where was I playing God? Where was I trying to control that person? Where was I trying to control the outcome? Where was I being punitive and so on? Breaking it down into the defects because it asked me where had I been. And then I do dishonest, and you know that might look like manipulation. That might look like and not keeping the other person's boundaries, dishonest motives, lying, cheating, stealing. Self-seeking looks like, you know, seeking my value and worth from others. When I don't get it, I'm feeling rejected, or self-pity and pity seeking, and comparing, competing, things like this. And then then I look for where I've been frightened, and you know, the fear is that I'm not lovable. Again, I'm referring to my mom, that I'm unlovable, that the person, you know, whoever I meet is going to walk out and leave me, you know. So um it says we place them before us in black and white, and that just means we wrote them down. And we've admitted our wrongs honestly, and we're willing to set these matters straight. I'm going to hand it over to you, Howard. That was quite a way to describe it. I bet you'll do it better than that. Um, but I want to refer to this sentence for a second. It talks about admitting our wrongs honestly, and we're willing to set these matters straight. Not the first time when I did the steps did this jump out, but it did jump out during the pandemic that there's no surprise when you get to the 8th step what you have to do. It's already telling you that you said you were willing to set these matters straight. It's already referring to the 9th step. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, you did a great job. There's not much that I could add to that. And you know, Bill gives us an example on what page? Page 65 of I'm resentful at, and what's the cause, and what basic instinct is affected by that. And I've had people asking, well, where do you come up with this fourth column business? I mean, he didn't draw a fourth column. Well, where does that, how do you know that so adamantly? How are you so sure of that. Well, I can read and speak English, and when somebody gives me a direction like refer back to the list, that means go back to where I ended off on that third column, and now add a column to it and ask these questions. He said, referring to our list again, putting out of mind the wrongs others had done. What are the wrongs that others did? That's in column 2. And as Kathy said, we fold that over, we cover that up. But he's telling us, put that out of mind. We resolutely look for our own mistakes. When you do something resolutely, you're doing it with firm determination, and it's goal oriented, meaning you have a conclusion that you want to get to, and you're not going to stop until you get to it. You resolutely look for what are your mistakes, and then it defines those mistakes. As I said, where had we been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened? There are a couple other words that Joe and Charlie added that came from the 12 and 12. And you may want to write those down. Besides selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened, he's got irresponsible, inconsiderate, and judgmental, because those are the things that are going to appear in that final column. Those are the final column is the money column. Everything that's written in that column is going to be used later on. It's going to be used in our 5th step when our sponsor can identify things that we don't or won't by ourselves. One of the things we're going to read shortly is Bill telling us that a solitary self-appraisal is insufficient, because I can't look at me and see the total truth. I've spent my whole lifetime rationalizing and justifying my behavior. So what I see is not really the truth. So in my 5th step, I need somebody who could listen to this, what I'm telling them about this, and stop me and say, wait a minute, you weren't being inconsiderate. You were being outright dishonest. I need somebody to see the things in me that I can't or won't. And that helps me to go from here into the 6th step, the 7th step. See, the information in that 4th column is vital to our recovery, because that's where we're gonna get the defects in step 6. That's where we're gonna get the shortcomings in step 7. I know one place calls it a defect, another one says it's a wrong, and another. When Bill was asked what's the difference between those terms, he said nothing. They mean the same thing. In composition and in basic English composition in college, I learned that if you can find another way to say a word, don't repeat the same word over and over, because it's a display of a lack of intelligence. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Yeah? Huh? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Yeah, right? Yeah. Enough. Okay. Um, so that takes care of, like Kathy was saying, where were we to blame? There's that last column. We saw our faults. Here we go. We switched the word around again. Now it's our faults. We listed them. That's column 4. Listed. We don't write out a life story. We list these things. And how do I know we're supposed to write it? Because it says so. It says we placed them before us in black and white. We admitted our wrongs honestly, and were willing to set these matters straight. Huh?
Yeah, my 4th column or 5th, whichever way you do it, is going to be used for my amends, literally word for word, pretty much. If anyone wants the examples of decisions based on selfishness, dishonesty, and self-seeking, just give us a message. I'm happy to send it to you. The same with the grid. Maybe Rob has put in the chat, but if anyone does, I'm so happy to share that.
Rob, do you have the 4-column grid that we use?
Probably.
If not, I'll dig it out while Kathy's sharing. It's a review of angers. Go ahead.
No, it's not, but I think Rob knows what it is.
Yeah, okay.
Well enough.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Talking about pages one.
Putting Rob on the spot. Come on.
Yeah,
let's
go
read-
ahead.
Let's read out of the back of the fourth edition, the story.
Oh, you want
Or-
to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. What Kathy is referring to is this. We have the on page 67, the top paragraph, we have what we call the sick man's prayer. When a person offended, in other words, when a person pissed us off, what do we do about that? Well, at the back of the book, in this story section, there's an interesting story by called Freedom from Bondage. And if you have I'm sure you have your book. If you have the study version, you will not be able to find this, but otherwise you could just listen as I read through it. This is a story of Win Quorum Laws, LAWS. She got sober in 1947. Uh, let's just say she was a close friend of Bill's and leave it at that. Okay. But in her story, she says the following. I'm going to read to you 551 in the book, and then I'm going to go to the prayer that she gives us for how to get rid of resentments we don't want to let go of. But the background is important. Why did she do that? So on 551, she says, I've had many spiritual experiences since I've been in the program. Many I didn't recognize right away, for I'm slow to learn and take many guises. And they take many guises. But one was so outstanding that I like to pass it on whenever I can in the hope that it'll help someone else as it has me. As I said earlier, self-pity and resentment were my constant companions, and my inventory began to look like a 33-year diary, for I seemed to have a resentment against everybody I had ever known. All but one responded to the treatment. In other words, applying the steps to in 6 and 7 and 8 and 9. But this one posed a problem. This resentment was against my mother, and it was 25 years old. I fed it. I fanned it. I surrendered it as I nurtured it as one might a delicate child, and it had become a part of me, as much a part of me as my breathing. It had provided me with excuses for my lack of education, my marital failures, personal failures, inadequacy, and of course, my alcoholism. And though I really thought I'd been willing to part with it, now I knew I was reluctant to let it go. One morning, however, I realized I had to get rid of it, for my reprieve was running out. And if I didn't get rid of it, I was going to get drunk, and I didn't want to do that, to get drunk anymore. In my prayers that morning, I asked God to point out to me some way to be free of this resentment. There's the prayer part of step 11. We ask for the right ideal. Okay. And then she says, again, my prayers that morning, I asked God to point to me some way to be free of this resentment. During the day, a friend of mine brought me some magazines to take to a hospital group I was interested in. She was doing volunteer work at a hospital, and like many of us have done, bring a stack of magazines so that the patients there could have something to do besides staring at the TV and at the wall all day long. So she took those books and she said, I looked at them. A banner across one featured an article by a prominent clergyman in which I caught the word resentment. She went through these magazines, and smack dab on the cover of one of them was an article called I'm sorry, that contained the word resentment. Um, let me just get this for you. Um, the article that she's referring to was written by Norman Vincent Peale, very noted author in those days. He wrote he also wrote the book How to Win Friends and Influence People, something like that. But there was an article that she had found in this magazine, which was taken out of this book. His book is called A Guide to Confident Living. And this is what the article said. All of that is secondary. Two things to remember here. One, she said a prayer in the morning and asked for direction, asked for a way to be relieved of this resentment. And here we go. She saw the word resentment, so she opened the magazine. And he said, in effect, if you have a resentment you want to be free of, if you'll pray for the person or the thing you resent, you will be free. If you'll ask in prayer for everything you want for yourself to be given to them, you'll be free. Ask for their health, their prosperity, their happiness, and you will be free. Even when you don't really want it for them and your prayers are only words and you don't mean it, go ahead and do it anyway. Do it every day for 2 weeks. And I'm going to suggest, if you're following here, cross those words out for 2 weeks, because it doesn't respond to a timetable. It happens when it happens. So she says, do it every day for 2 weeks and you'll find you've come to mean it and to want it for them. And you'll realize that where you used to feel bitterness and resentment and hatred, you now feel compassion, understanding, and love. It worked for me then, and it has worked for me many times since, and it will work for me every time I'm willing to work it. Sometimes I have to ask first for the willingness, but it too always comes. And because it works for me, it will work for all of us. I love that prayer. So next time somebody pisses you off, you now have 2 ways to deal with it. Pray for them to have the things in their life that you would want yourself and your loved ones to have. And also recognize that this person who offended me is a sick person as well. How can I help him? And I'm going to step aside. I have a few minutes left to at least get through that column.
You get we're moving on to fear. We've got
Did we
grit.
finish referring to our list again? We placed them before us in black and white.
Yes, we did.
Let's stop there.
Right.
Right. And we'll pick it up next week and we're going to start fears. Okay. Anyone have any questions, any thoughts? Anyone want to share a 4-step 4-column reading? Billy?
I'll do one.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go
but you
ahead.
can ask me it.
Okay, so Kathy's going to do one. So what do we have in column 1? And incidentally, when you're doing your inventory in a notebook, I hope, in the first column, don't use real names. Use initials, use nicknames, because you don't know who's going to take a look at that. It may fall into someone's hands and cause great harm if they find their name on that. So in the first column, who am I angry at? You know who it is. Just write down a way to remember initials, nicknames, and so on. I'm sorry, I just wanted to interrupt with that.
No, it's okay. So I'm doing it right.
Yes.
Okay,
So
let me
column
go.
1, what do you have?
Um,
Okay. What did she do to deserve a special place in hell?
she deceived. How do you say? She didn't stick to her word about helping to spay Miley.
Okay. And
Demanding.
okay. Anything else besides that? Because in that
She's a
column,
crew loose.
we could, she's crazy. Okay. We can itemize different things. She's this, she's that, because if you notice in Bill's example, he gives it to us both ways. He lists out, say, for example, Mr. Brown, his attention to my wife, that affected my sex relations and self-esteem. Mr. Brown, because he told my wife of my mistress, it affects sex relations and so on. So you could put them all together or break them down individually. Kathy has broken them down individually. The first one is she lied, she misrepresented. Okay. Second one is she's unreliable and she's a flake.
Yes, and she's demanding and she's a screw loose.
Okay. And what basic instinct was hurt or threatened by what she did?
Emotional security. No, I'm on the spot. I'm trying to be perfect. Emotional security, financial security, ambition,
Yep.
My self-esteem, what do you call that thing? Personal relations and sex relations, because it has an effect on you.
Yep. And column 4. What defect came out as a result of that?
Well, I have to do the prayer first.
Okay, that's right. And you should do the prayer. So go right ahead.
God, I asked you to help me show Pam the same tolerance, compassion, pity, and patience I would cheerfully grant a sick friend. She is a sick person, just like me. How can I be helpful to her? God, please save me from being angry. Please give her everything you'd want from me to her. And have I done these things? Have I been demanding? Have I misled people? Have I been a nutcase? Check, check, check. Decisions based on self, which later placed me in a position to be hurt. I signed the contract. I didn't think twice about asking any other questions apart from what I needed at that time. And I reached out to her not so long ago, and she was able to bring up stuff about the agreement. And yeah, and then where had I been selfish? I was inconsiderate of you, unmindful. I was trying to control her, trying to control the outcome, because I thought it was right. And punitive and retaliatory. You don't mention her name right now. Complacency in my program, because it's still bothering me for the last week. Like, and I did this on it. So I really need to do the Wim Corn laws. And then dishonest motives, because at the start I was like trying to be really, really nice to her so she would think we would be good parents for my life. That's kind of manipulative and dishonest motives.
Okay.
Self-seeking. I'd also say seeking my value and worth when I didn't get it. Feeling rejected, like when, yeah, I was nice and she just came back really direct to me. So also the need to be right and seen as right, because I'm always right, even when I'm wrong. There's this comparing and competing. There's judgment and criticism of her because I have a less than ego showing up with a better than ego. Like, I'm an alcoholic and an addict, so what if she's one too? That's not my business. What is that saying? It's called the kettle calling the pot black.
Right.
Anyway,
kettle calling the pot black.
yeah.
What else?
You finish this up, and there's this hierarchy, and there's just this self-righteous anger and this victim, like this, she's the villain and I'm the victim, and there's this self-pity, pity seeking, and then the fear is of what she thinks of me, her winning, like if she gets her way, like it means I lose when I don't want her to win. I want to win. Not that it's a competition, you see, but in my mind, it's like I'm not giving in to her. Not being in control, of being judged, of being found out, um, and not being a good parent to Miley, which is really what she thinks of me, and afraid of her like taking any legal action or something. This is over spading the dog, so yeah,
Okay.
and maybe afraid of being wrong because I couldn't admit I'm wrong.
Mhm.
That's it. I asked you about, yeah, sorry.
Okay. That was great. And that's the way we do it. I was just thinking as Kathy was going through that, we read the directions where it said refer to or listen again, put it out of mind, the wrongs others had done, and so on. Towards the end of that paragraph, it says a couple of things. It says, where were we to blame? And then a few lines after that, it says, when we saw our faults, we listed them, which raises the question, what is the difference? What's the difference between a fault and blame? Right? In one situation, he says, where were we to blame? And then when we saw our faults, we listed them. Well, as I understand it, fault is a slight crime or offense, a minor undertaking, a minor crime or offense. We did something to somebody else that was a minor offense. That's what fault means. Blame means the entire responsibility for the wrong falls on my shoulders. I think you could see the difference there. That when you admit one, it's a far, far cry from admitting the other one. But just wanted to point that out because we've gone over it and didn't say anything about it.
Yeah. Why don't you do a resentment?
Oh, I don't see somebody else in the room do that. Does
Anyone
anybody want to
else? If
jump
there's
in?
no one else, say.
Yeah, Caleb.
Yay! There you go.
Here you go.
You give Howard an out.
Here you go.
Old one. I'm not gonna put her name out there, but my ex. The reason, just a lot of empty promises. What it affected, my self-esteem, pride, ambition, emotional security, and my personal relations. My mistakes, selfish self-seeking. I was stuck in victim mode, right? And how many promises in the past did I break? I promise I'm not going to use again. I promise I'm not going to let you down again. I promise this, promise that. I was frightened, it just brought up a bunch of stuff just from my mother and all the broken, empty promises she made. Again, self-pity. I was stuck in victim mode still. I just had that victim mentality. Poor, pitiful Caleb. And again, inconsiderate, she was at where she was at, she was doing the best she could. So, and again, like, how many times have I done in the past? You know what I mean? To not just her, but my parents, my kids. So yeah.
I'm going to add something here that isn't in the book at this point. That when I do my fifth step with my guys, when we go across the columns as you just did, I get through the last column. I ask a question, and the question is, was anybody harmed as a result of that? Did you harm that person? Did
As a
somebody
result of the
else
empty
harm?
promises.
Yeah, it's just asking, was there any harm involved here? Did your behavior that you're angry about them doing whatever to you, did it cause you to create harm? And it's a simple
Mhm.
yes or a no answer.
Yep.
And if the answer is yes, my suggestion is we highlight something in column 1, maybe write the word fear in column 1, some way to designate that there was harm done, because later on, we're going to be asked to list our harms. And we're going to have to know where to go to look for them. And that's one of the places we go to. Great job. Great job, Kevin. Good
Oh,
work.
there's
And
Dale, maybe he wants to share.
Dell, you want to take a shot at something?
I'm only joking. I'm only joking.
Oh no, yeah, I'd like to, like, harm someone. It's you. Reason being, I lost the time. This time thing keeps screwing me up at the beginning. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to take myself round the back. And I'm going to shoot myself in the head.
Oh, I don't think that's in there, but okay. It's
Yeah,
not an
well,
option. All
yeah.
right.
I'm messing around. I'm messing around.
Thank you. You're the best. All right, Rob, you got your hand up, and we can bounce after that.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for everything you and Kathy do. Love you guys. Now what about assets? Do you ever list assets?
Yes. I was going to talk about it next week.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
we will leave it till then.
Yeah, let's do that. We're
Okay,
running a little
sounds
late.
good.
Let's
Yep.
talk about
No,
it next week.
understandable.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Oh, well, I've got one for you. Right, what
Okay.
about a person that I've already made amends to, right, twice? First time wasn't too good. Second time, she was okay with me after that. And now I'm talking about my ex. Now, when I go over there, because I've been told to stay away because it's a minefield, she's nasty with me every single time, even though I've already made amends to her. I mean, I look at her as a sick person. I say, I use the sick man's prayer that she's sick and everything else. But what do I do in a situation where I've already made amends? Because I think a part of it is that she's angry and jealous because it sobered me up when she tried for God knows how many years to do everything she could to sober me up. Because when I told her last year that I was 6 years sober, because I'm coming up on 7 now, she turned around and says, well, it's a pity you couldn't have done that when you were in the house, couldn't you? You know what I mean? So there's still a lot of resentment now.
Good job. Great job.
What does it say in the back of the book? I know you didn't ask for feedback, but I'm thinking of this line, when it talks about it in amends, that they might not see their defects glaring, but we have to show up and do the right thing, and eventually they come around. I'm not saying she'll come around, but so hard to do, but you're showing up, practicing your program, and that's the most important thing, I think, anyway. I'm not your sponsor.
Yeah, call your sponsor.
Yeah, will
All
do.
right.
Up the phone, sponsor.
All right.
Okay.
Want to wrap it up?
Sure. Melanie, would you like to take us out with a prayer of your choice? No pressure.
Sure.
Okay.
Which one shall I choose? Let's see. Okay, I'm going to go with the 7-step prayer.
Ah, beautiful.
My Creator, I'm now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out here to do your bidding. Amen.
Great job. Great job. Thank you, Melanie. Great. Everybody, thank you.
Thank you.
Caleb, if you get a minute, can you text me or email me your contact information?
Sure. I'll throw it in the
Okay.
chat.
No, don't put it in the chat because I may not get that. So
Okay.
if you could send it to me at thebigbookstudy@aol.com.
Cool.
Okay. That way
Gotcha.
I'll have it. All right. All right, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Great job. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
guys. Good night.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hey, Charlotte. Hey, Del. Charlie, Rita, great to see you guys as always.
Oh, lovely to see you.
How's everything in the UK? In Leicester?
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
It's very quiet in where I live. It's like a little old market town with lots of trees and fields and stuff. So it's sort of just me and Frankie. But do you know something? I'm always worn out.
You
So,
keep
Shadow.
odd, I'm going to say you keep odd hours to me, because I can only go by, you know,
Yeah,
so
I would
so
say
I know it's earlier, but normally it'd be 2
Right.
a.m. when the
Yeah.
meeting ends. Now it's 1 a.m. So, and you're doing meetings all the time. So
I
I
know.
don't know
I'm doing,
when you rest.
I've just had some, well, I didn't sleep very well, but I've tried getting some sleep and I'm up to do service now. Obviously, I thought on here, but also
Yeah.
I've got another one I do service on in another couple of hours.
What at
We
4
love
a.m.
it,
your
Rob.
time?
Will
Well, it
I?
would have been, but it's 3. It's 3 instead.
Yeah. I'll be in bed.
No, I do need my sleep, though. I have to be honest. I tell you
Put a
something.
guy on.
Is
Sorry.
I'll catch up on my sleep. So I get like my hours, but in
Okay.
chunks.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I've
You get
realised,
her hours, you see, when she's asleep, she just goes,
yeah, I'm like that. But what I need to do is get, I think, like the whole night. I think that's when your body refixes itself, regenerates. It's those
Yeah.
hours are precious, aren't they? So somehow I need to do that.
Because you
we've
remember
got
Michael Jackson used to take propofol, which would
both of them, yeah.
which is similar to if you go into for an operation. So you're sleeping or you're not awake, but you're not getting the REM sleep that you need in order to regenerate.
Oh, you know,
Yeah, it's
you
true.
need to go into that rapid eye movement.
Yeah.
I can feel it within me as well now. It's like I think it was great fun and everything like that. But it is catching up on me a little bit.
I can see it in your face.
It's like
Oh,
burning a candle at both ends.
right, lipstick and everything.
It's like burning a candle at both ends, Charlotte.
Mm.
I worry that,
Yeah, I know. I know.
It's not your makeup. I can just see it in your eyes.
No, there was that there. But the
We well, like I say, I'm going to go on this meeting at 3. I don't know if anyone wants to join me, but it's a guy from California who's the same as Howard. He's very knowledgeable on the book.
and they have a meeting from California, or where is the
Yeah, it's
meeting
in
coming from?
California. Yeah, it's a California-based meeting called Oldies but Goodies.
So what time would it be in California?
It'll be 8 p.m.
8 California.
Yeah,
it's,
So
uh,
that'd be 11 p.m. my time. Okay.
I'll put the
what
flyer
time
in 2 seconds.
No, I don't need it. I'm going to
All
bed.
right,
I'll be in
okay.
bed by then.
All
I
right.
promise you that. Even if I have to lay there and pet the dog,
Yeah, I'm doing it right now. That's why I'm sitting in this very awkward position. I sit back and he woofs.
Let the dog up on your lap.
I went to, but then he goes and falls on his back as if to say, "No
Aw.
more tickles." Come here. Go ahead. Come here.
Love the animals.
That's the meeting there. I'm saying that's the meeting there, that one. I've been getting them shares for the last God knows how long because Isidro, who's the chair for the moments, he's been struggling to get decent shares, so I've been dragging them in by the as they say over here, I've been dragging them in by the scruff of their hair.
Good night,
Yeah.
guys. I'm going to go. I love you all. Thank you. I learned lots.
Okay, Charlotte, get some rest, okay?
Yeah.
We'll talk to you tomorrow, probably.
Yeah.
Good
You be
night.
good.
Good to see you.
Charlie, Rita, you guys have fun.
Charlie.
Thank you.
Enjoy Florida.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
Florida and the sunshine.
Yeah, thank you for the JD pictures you sent to me recently. I forgot to thank you.
Oh, my play. I hope you enjoyed them.
I do. I add them to my pile. I got a big
Okay.
collection. Thank you, sir.
A big pile. I know you love the bikes and stuff like that. So whenever I see them, I try to,
I'm a
I think of you. So, you know, I thought maybe you'd get a kick out of them. So,
I
because
did.
I love looking at the old ones that you have,
Yeah.
the old bikes,
I
you know, and
I probably
Right.
got about 5,000 I could send you if you want any.
maybe 250.
All right. I'll pick out some choice ones.
Okay. I'll
I
let
think
you
we
guys
need to
go.
ask Charlie, is that key box behind you or something, or is that like a display case?
Oh, it's a printer's tray.
Ah,
In the olden day, they held letters.
right.
People just put decorations
For
in them.
typesetting,
Oh,
display.
yeah, is that in the days when they did it with the,
Yep.
yeah, before the printing press?
That's called those drawers are called a California type case.
Ah, right.
Wow.
Learn something new every day.
If there were cabinets where every drawer had a different typeface in it.
Yeah.
Back in the days when they individually put type in
Yeah, I've seen it done, yeah.
Yeah.
But you weren't a typesetter.
Obsolete now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but you never did that, did you?
I did.
Oh, you did do it. Okay, so question for you. They keep talking about there's two thoughts on, and this is gonna take us back to the big book. So you got to think about 1939. Some people say that the italics cost more money. Now, because they would have to stop the press, reset the type, and move on. Today, it's all by computer, so it doesn't matter. But other people say that no, it wasn't as complicated as we make it out to be, and that it did not cost more money for
No.
the italics.
No, it did not.
Okay.
It was a separate typeface that matched the master face for the whole book. I mean, there's typefaces got hundreds of names because every style has got a name.
Yeah.
But anyway, the italics was a separate face that went in there. It was in the same line. Some of that in the era that the big book was printed was done on a machine, actually. It wasn't so much handset type. There were two major machines. One was called an Intertype and one was called a Linotype. Two different manufacturers, but it was a great, big, massive thing, probably weighed 10,000 pounds, a machine that had a keyboard to it, carried magazines of different typefaces. An operator could hand type the things like you would be sitting at a desk at a typewriter.
Really?
He would cast a line of type with these molds, hit a master key that would lock that whole thing up into a line, pour it in lead, and it poured the type in a line, which was the equivalent each individual line in the page of this book.
Right.
Those got locked up in what was called a galley.
Right.
That subsequently got locked up into a form called a chase to do a whole page or a whole big sheet of paper for a signature and be run through the printing press. So pages were printed in multiplicity. The page was formed, folded, trimmed, stapled, and each little section of it, if you look at the back of the spine of your Alcoholics Anonymous book or any paperback book, you'll see how every one of these little sections of pages is folded and individually glued and stapled in many cases into the spine of the book.
Yeah. And there's a word for that too. What do you call that?
Signature.
Each section of a book is called a signature.
Signature. Okay.
I remember seeing a documentary.
I'll send you a printer's book and everything you know in 25 million words or less.
Well, you wouldn't have pictures of the old printing press, would you, that they might have used around that time or something similar?
There was
1939.
Yeah, I can come up with that kind of thing. Now I don't know what specifically they did,
No.
what kind of a press, but I would assume in that day it was done by what we call a letterpress process, which was the metal type.
Yeah.
In later years, it came to be lithography, and that was initially set by letterpress. They pull proofs that were photographed, and then photographic plates were used to do the printing, and that's a whole different process.
Have got it written.
My two uncles were in the printing industry, but they were in the 60s.
Yeah,
And,
well,
and they've deceased
the
too.
majority of printing in that period of time, that's the era that I got into it. I saw the tail end of the letterpress era and the beginning of offset or lithography coming in.
Yeah.
course,
So that's why my uncle
majority
got out of the printing industry, because he saw the future that, computers and everything were going to be taking over.
Right. That typesetting thing in the old days with metal type was a laborious, intensive thing. It took a whole department of people to manage that stuff, because every galley had multiples of lines of type that were almost, well, I've forgotten the exact dimensions, but it was 0.9 something. It was almost an inch thick, and many cases an eighth of an inch in width, plus the length of the line of type of a given book, whether it's a big book or a little book. But those galleys being solid lead, well, it was a mixture of lead, tin, and antimony is what the compound was. But if you've ever handled a bag full of fishing lures or sinkers, you know how heavy lead gets in a hurry. There was tonnage of that stuff in a print shop. The ingots alone that went into a linotype machine to melt the lead for the casting process, where there was usually 2 or 3 of them at a time on a chain to feed the melting pot. Each one of those ingots weighed about 60 pounds.
Yeah. Well, I used to work in the gold industry, and in the company, we would make 14 karat, 10 karat, 18 karat, and 24 karat too. And there would be big ingots that you would hook up to a machine, and they would make chain out of it.
Right.
Chain. So I remember the ingots, and they used to melt the gold or the all the different the copper, the gold, the silver, whatever, in order to make the melts. Send that down to the finery, watch them heat it up, pour it into ingots. Wow, that was quite the fascinating thing too.
Mm-hmm.
But
if you go
Sorry
to YouTube and put linotype in action, LINO type, there are a number of videos showing a linotype machine.
This would be fascinating to you, Rob. Can you?
Gotta hold it up there. But just linotype in YouTube.
I'll check. I've written it down. I'm going to check it out.
Okay.
But if you have any pictures, Charlie,
I remember watching a documentary once, and it was about the typewriter and why it was never done in A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and why it was made in QWERTY up was because when they were when you were hammering the keys, when they were A, B, C and that, they were just locking up together. Where QWERTY up, if you do them right, you're not hitting them too many at the same time, it would all work out fine. That's the reason why it's QWERTY up rather than A, B, C, D, E, F, G, because it would just. There was more to it than that, but that was the reason why, as far as I.
Now the keyboards are laid out where your strongest fingers use the most frequently used keys. All the lesser used stuff is out around the perimeter.
Mm.
The letter
I don't know,
E is
I don't know if you already know this, Rob, but I've got it written down in my book how much the first copies of Big Book cost, and it was roughly about $3.50, which was a lot of money in today's money.
Well, that's what they were selling it for, $3.50.
Yeah, 350. Yeah,
I've got a copy of the invoice
yeah.
Nice.
of
Yeah.
what they paid Cornwall Press,
Because
which is
I
where it
think
was
they
done.
originally did was it 2,300 copies they did, and it was $3.50 each. And I did work it out in our money in today's money once, and it was a stupid amount of money.
Yeah, but don't forget, they also gave a lot of those books went for free to the people that submitted an article, and the book cost about $1
Did
each,
it? Oh,
and because Rockefeller sent out a whole bunch of copies to
right,
people, and they gave it to Rockefeller a cost of $1.
right.
that's
Now
it.
there's a guy that can afford to pay $3.50 for a
Yeah,
book,
of course.
and they
Yeah,
give him for $1.
yeah.
That's interesting, Rob. If you've got a copy of that invoice, I'd be curious to see if it gives any specs, any
No, it doesn't. It
No.
doesn't. And that's one of the problems is you can't, because if it said, typesetting and then, change typesetting, if it was different,
Yeah,
because it's been a big debate in the rooms of AA of, because originally when I came in, I was told that the squiggly writing or the italic cost more money so that you should pay more attention to it. Then somebody else who was in the printing industry came out and said, no, it didn't. It wasn't as what's the word I'm looking for? Old, or it wasn't as difficult as what I perceive it to be.
right.
And so they said it didn't cost more. But you'll still hear it in the rooms that it costs more, so pay more attention to it.
Hmm.
I think
Well,
just italics were to highlight it to get your
Yeah,
attention.
it was an early version
Yeah.
of a highlight. It was an
Yeah.
attention getter, or to
It would be like putting in a bold.
importance. But every print shop had a specialty of the kind of typefaces that they used. Some of it was for their own character, some of it was for readability. But there were many type companies in big cities like Chicago and New York or whatever.
Yeah.
I've been looking for an old printer's copy of one, and I can't find one anymore. We had several in the print shop I worked in here in Orlando, but it was called a specimen book or a type spec book, and it gave you all these multiplicities of these typefaces, different bold names like Castellan and Bodoni and New York and Swasha and Old English and English text. I mean, the names just go on and on and on. Every typeface has got a name. The one that's posted behind you right now on your sign is got a name. I have no idea what it is, but a lot of things for.
You ever try looking on eBay, because eBay are quite bloody good for finding stuff.
Right.
Oh, that's
And
a good idea.
Some of those books became obsolete because typefaces and styles, just like laundry and clothing and shoes and colors of your house, all that changed as a fad and a style. Some of it went out of use.
Yeah. I just put the invoice in the chat.
I had a Sony Walkman in the 80s, right, with a special 5-band graphic equalizer on. They were hard to get hold of. And then all of a sudden I found one on eBay. I had a look on eBay, I found one. They're not that expensive. Obviously they're not brand new, but I might just get it just for sentiments, because I love that. I left it while I came back from a rave back in the day, 30 years ago, and left it at someone's house, and I was gutted, absolutely gutted. So I'm thinking of buying it, just like even if it doesn't work, it's just to put it somewhere as a sentiment,
Jeez, I had one too. I don't know if it's still got one around here. It would be put away with my MP3 player. Because I've been moved. That's one of the things about music is that I had it in 8-track cassette, album,
Mm,
MP3. I burned everything to CDs so
mm,
that I could play them in the car, because now
yeah,
cars, now I have to burn it to a memory stick
yeah, yeah, yeah,
in order to put it in my car.
yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah,
all the different music formats that we've
I
gone
know, I
through.
know,
What's next?
I know. Well, we'll just be thinking of it and it'll just play in our head. We'll be like the Matrix. It'll be just jacked into the back of our head.
Charlie, if you take a look at the invoice, maybe it'll make sense to you more so than to me.
I'll look at it. I have to
Yeah,
enlarge it.
yeah. When you get it, yeah. No, I understand. But it's fascinating, that you know something about this, and
Yeah,
get to share it with us. So thank you.
yeah.
Hey, if you would rather, I can send it to you in WhatsApp.
No, we can deal with
I
this.
downloaded it, so I
Oh, you
can.
did? Okay.
We can
Okay.
deal with this. I have a whiz here that can do that.
I know.
A little bit.
Quickly before I go, right? That behind you with the two masks on, what's that for? The auditioning for the Green Hornet or something?
No, in the anonymity. When they were
Ah,
talking
right.
about anonymity, right? That's what they would do when they went in front of press, radio, television, something like that.
Ah, right. I thought,
So
I thought it was like Juice for auditioning to be Bruce Lee.
the Green Hornet, though, I like that one.
Yeah,
I remember that from when I was a kid. Bruce
yeah.
Lee was the man. Got me
Oh,
into martial arts.
yeah.
I spent 30 some odd years in the martial arts, and
They say he would practice the same kick 1,000 times or 10,000 times rather than
at least 10,000 times.
yeah.
At
Yeah, and the
least.
same with the punch. They said that he won the Green Hornet. They asked him to slow down because his
Too fast.
punch was too fast.
Yeah, he was amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing. Even when he was on Batman.
yeah.
Rita's going,
Yeah,
Batman. That's before my time.
I know the
Charlie, you remember Batman.
Yeah,
I know
vaguely.
that.
Burt Ward and Adam West.
Bloody cheap as Batman.
Oh, well, I'm going to close it down. Charlie, it was great talking to you and learning all this stuff. I love it.
I'll scare up a few things I think maybe
Yeah, if
eventually. And I'll
yeah,
load
when you
your
get a chance,
I'll load your mailbox up one day.
I'll look forward to it. Because
Okay.
then, because when we talk about printing and stuff like that, at least I can share some of the stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's basically what I do, is I try to do, is to share this stuff with people, and so that they get an idea of what a printing press looks like. We have the original manuscript. You've seen the original manuscript with all the writing and
Yes, all the
all
type.
and they took that original manuscript down to the printer and wanted them to print it.
Wow.
And it's like, you got to be kidding me. So they had to stay
Well,
down in.
I'd be curious on that subject to know who put all the proofreaders' marks in there beyond the notes that they put in there, because normally a printer would annotate those things before it would be given to the linotype operator or the typesetter to do those kind of things.
Well, now the story is, what I have heard is that Bill, Ruth Hawk, Hank Parkhurst, and Dorothy Snyder all went down to Cornwall Press and stayed there and made changes while they were printing.
That makes sense. Because you would need
because the printer said, I can't do it. You got to retype this and bring it back. And they said, you can't. We got to get it done, right?
Yes.
So
usually a linotype or an intertype, which was a similar machine, an operator setting the type for a book, that would be his assignment for a day or a week or however long it took. And in some commercial print shops, he would do it in segments because he couldn't just ignore all the other work they had to do. So he would do it in phases, but they normally work with a finished manuscript that was just prepared for the typesetter with all his typesetting marks in it, and they got a shorthand code all of their own.
Yeah, underlined is bold or something, and
I've got a whole book about that. The
yeah,
proofreaders marks, which you drive you crazy because they're
yeah,
funny. But
that's a little too much in depth for me.
That's normally what would have happened in a print shop. An operator would have been given a final draft of a book and set to type, and then they would pull a proof from it, and then somebody else would have the arduous task of taking that manuscript and that proof from that typesetting and sit there and read comparatively line by line through that thing for changes, and they'd have to mark any mistakes. They would go back to the linotype operator to reset a line of type, who a guy called a stone man would have to pull that bad linotype out, place a new one in, and then pull another proof for a further reading.
Sounds so arduous.
It was a laborious process.
Yeah, it sounds that way.
But you got to think, and you know this today from this computer whiz stuff that you and Rita are so good at. Technology today is rather cheap. Labor is expensive. In the day of this linotype, hard metal type day of kind of printing, those linotype machines cost $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. Not every print shop could afford one of them.
Yeah.
So it was only big shops that had them. And like newspapers, if you've ever seen a picture of the inside of, and I just got to throw a name out, Chicago Tribune or the New York News or something, they'd have a typesetting room on a floor that there'd be 20 or 30 of these things in a row. They were running 24 hours a day with them things.
Yeah. Yeah, because they were having
when digital printing came in to where somebody at a keyboard today can typeset something and the image go direct to a printing press. It bypassed all that stuff. Those $40,000 internet and linotype machines, you couldn't buy some of them 20 years ago for $2,000. Nobody wanted one.
Yeah. Yeah. All they wanted was the scrap metal value.
The very last industry that really used them big time was check printers, and they used them for one thing alone. That was the magnetic number that's on a check.
Yeah.
That was printed in magnetic ink, and that particular typeface was constantly done by linotype machines. That was some of the last ditch effort that those were used in.
When's the last time you saw a check?
Yeah, well, that too. It's amazing. I belong to an industry that virtually doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my sister-in-law, she was in the printing industry. She would sell it. She would sell printing and then go to the printer and get it done. But, everything is so easier, quicker, faster, I don't know if it's better, but technology is crazy.
Wow.
Well, even that you can put up a picture and I can print it out here. I mean, that would be unheard of even in my day. I mean,
yeah. Oh, well. I will let you two go. I'm keeping you up. But hey, Charlie, this is fascinating. I love it.
Yeah. I've enjoyed talking with you, Rob. We'll do it again someday.
I will look forward to it, Charlie. Rita, thanks for putting up with us.
No problem. You have a good night. I appreciate all the work you do in the chats. And
my pleasure.
All right.
Pleasure. Hope you enjoy it.
You be safe.
Good night. Good night.